Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 of my Finding Inspiration Friday and working in Mermaids in Paradise by Denyse Klette. I'll leave a link in the description below for part 1, where I go more in depth of my inspiration with pictures and of course how I colored up to this point. But just a quick reminder of my inspiration. It is a tiki bar called Undertow that I went to, and it reminded me of some of the pages in this book, and I thought it'd be really cool for an inspiration. I really like this page because it's like in a tiki bar setting. It has a good variety of these hanging globes and some cocktails, of course, and then a pretty mermaid. And then look how silly this octopus is. I love like each arm is doing something different, like stirring and pouring and cleaning. So I thought that was really fun. All right, so speaking of the octopus, that is where I'm going to start. So let's get started. I'm guessing this is a little rag he's holding, and I'm just using some yellows and blues. My octopus is going to be mostly lighter greens, but I do want to add hints of color here and there. So I'm going to highlight these little dots on the octopus with this light pink, and a few other areas I wanted highlighted. All right, and then next he's getting kind of an all-over base with this light green. This is the same light green I used for the fish down below. And I realized that I missed a little area of the background here, so just filling that in. All right, starting my shadows, I'm going to start with a light blue-green first, and that just kind of helps build my shadows of where I want it, and then I can kind of see better for when I put the darker colors on. All right, now adding the light pink on the inside of the arms around the little suction part of his arm. And a touch of yellow to enhance the highlights. And then just blending more with the lighter greens. I thought it needed some deeper shadow contrast, so this is a blue-gray, and I'm just blending it with one of the lighter shadow shades. All right, the hair is going to be a yellow base, so this is just my lighter yellow that I've been using. And this is my more golden yellow, what I used in the lights down at the bar. And here, this is my lightest shadow shade. So I'm just kind of trying to figure out where I want my shadows, where the highlights are supposed to be. This is usually the trickiest part for me. So that's why I start with the lightest one. Less room for error, I guess. And then I just build up from there. So I'll pick like a medium shade, and then I'll go to a darker shade and then blend in with that lighter base shade. And I kind of figured since she was down in the water that this bright yellow hair is going to pick up some of the blues and greens in the water. So I'm using that light kind of turquoise blue and just barely kind of touching it into some of these highlighted areas. And then I'm using a light blue just to deepen up the shadows in her hair. All right, grabbing a gel pen. This one doesn't have the name of the brand, so here is that one. And yeah, I'm just gonna add a few little bright strands here and there in the hair. All right, on to this pretty little lei that's sitting on top of her head. I'm gonna use a green for the leaves. This is kind of just a medium green. All right, and then I'm gonna use kind of that light golden yellow for these little bubbles that are in the lei. I'll also be using this color for her bikini top. All right, these flowers, I'm gonna start with red and they're gonna be more in the center of the flower. And then I'll go over all of that with a light pink. Now I'm just using a light purple and I'm kind of going over these flowers on the ends just for a shadow. All right, and then I'm using a couple different shades of green gel pens just to give the leaves a little bit more color variation. And then a yellow paint pen, or you could use a gel pen for the little center of the flowers. I like the shade of this yellow. All right, on to the skin. When I do skin, I usually stick to pretty basic skin tones, but I thought because she was in the water that I wanted to try out some different like shades of like blues or greens. I did lots of practice on another sheet of paper to see what worked best. Like I thought I wanted to do her mostly blue, but that didn't look right. So anyway, I'm going to do mostly skin tones, and then the shadows are going to be in those blues and greens. So I'm starting out with some lighter pinks. This is more of a blush pink, and just kind of figuring out where some of those shadows are on her face, and then give her some little blush on her cheeks. This is a brighter pink that I've been using for like the octopus and just some brighter pink highlights, and I'm just using a dotting motion to add some in there, adding some in her lips. And then I'm going to take the skin tone, which is just a really light skin tone, and kind of blending that all together and then using it for the base of her, all her skin. All right, starting those shadows with that light turquoise blue. And again, I try to start out more conservative with my shadow base, just trying to figure out where things look right for where they're supposed to be. And then once I get that base on, then I can go back in with some darker colors and start building it out a little bit more. After I do like the blues and greens, then I'm going to go over with some pink again, that bright pink. When that pink hits the blue, it turns a shade of purple, which I think is a really pretty shadow effect. Again, just building up my shadows, starting light and then finishing dark and then blending with the skin tone. All right, and then using those gel pens again to add some fun, colorful freckles. All right, so I thought it needed just a little bit more contrast again, so I'm using that bluish gray and just hitting some of the areas I think would be the very darkest, so right around these little edges here. All right, now for the tail. So the leg part of the tail, I'm just going to be doing some light and medium greens. This is more of like a yellow green. And then for the bigger part, like the fan end of the tail, I'll be using that light green that I've been using for most of the base of all my green fish. And now I'm taking that medium green and again, just kind of looking to see where my shadows might be. All right, about halfway through coloring this, I could tell my marker was feeling a little dry, so I needed to refresh it. So I do stop it here and then come back to it, and you can see the change right about now. As you can see, it's a little bit more potent of color. And to refresh it, all I do is take my tweezers, pull out that nib, and with the Ohuhu markers, you can add a few drops of alcohol, the isopropyl alcohol, and that will refresh it. And then I just turn the nib around so I have a fresh nib. Yeah, and that gets me through to my next colorings. I don't know how much longer it lasts or how much alcohol you should add. Like I said, I just add a few drops and that gets me through the next, page of coloring. All right, and then I'm just adding a few different shades of greens and blues that I've used like in the octopus and just blend all those. And then I do use this like a medium shade blue for my deepest shadows and then blend with my base layer. All right, and then using a brighter yellow just to touch up on these brighter highlight areas. Oh, Okay, working on her bikini top now. So these little baubles around her neck and then down below the top are going to be in shades of gold. Now, most of these are going to be gold. I am going to leave a few empty and then add a few different colors in there. I don't know why every time I see these, I think of like Christmas ornaments. So I'm going to make them a little bit colorful, but mostly gold. And then taking my refreshed light green, this is going to be the shell base. I was kind of wanting her bikini top to look like it was made of sequins. I wasn't really sure exactly how to do that, but I'm going to be adding this blue for shading, and then I'm just going to do a combination of some blues and greens. Those little dots that are already done by the artist, I'm just going to use that as my guide and add a few colorful dots here and there. And then at the end, when I'm doing all my glitter accents, then I'll add some glitter in there. And using gel pens to add highlights and more dots. All right, these limes are going to have a base of yellow on the inner part of that lime. And then I'm going to use a yellow green and just kind of dot in the center of that lime. And then taking a green gel pen and doing the outer part of the lime. It's such a tiny little space, but that gel pen gets right in there. All right, I'm going to show you how I do one umbrella, and then I'll just do the rest off camera. But I'm starting off with a pink and going to like a medium red and then darkening it up with a darker red for shadows. Off camera, I finished the umbrellas, the cherry, and a few drinks. This drink was inspired by one I found on Pinterest. I want it to look like parts of the fish are up against the glass, which will change the color of that part of the fish. I start by highlighting some of the fish where I think it's up against the glass, and then starting off with some lighter shades that I'll be using for the different colors. I'll start coloring the fish. So knowing that I can always darken it as I blend through those different shades. But I always try to maintain just a few areas where it will be light. I love how the octopus is trying to pour some liquid into this glass. Looking at it now, I probably should have chosen like the yellow, but I really like the look of the blue and how it was blending. I'm also going to make it look like some of this liquid is floating away in the water as it's coming out of the bottle. So I'll be using a water-based marker and a water brush to get that look. Now just taking some color pencils to highlight and shade the bubbles. All right, onto the glass globe lights. I'm starting off with the lightest shade, somewhere in the middle, but not directly in the middle. And then I work in my middle tone color and then blend that with the lightest. And then I go to the darker shade and then blend that with the medium. And sometimes I run that lighter shade all over the whole thing. And I decided that it does need some more bubbles here. So I'm going to do multi-layers of bubbles, different sizes, different like transparencies where some are nice and bright, some are just circles so that you can see through them. So you get more of a dimensional effect. And I'm using Posca and gel pens. The globes were the other thing that I've been experimenting with on my practice papers. I wanted them to look like they were glowing, but still have kind of this foggy or blurry look since they were underwater, if that makes sense. And I found the best way I could achieve that was with oil pastels. So I just take a similar color to the globe that I'm going to be coloring next to, maybe a little bit lighter, and add it right around that outside edge. I can always clean it up with an eraser if I get into an area that I don't want. And I found just using my finger to rub it around the edges worked best to smudge it. I used some blunt sticks and some Q-tips, but it was my finger that worked the best. Okay, now I'm adding all the fun, sparkly, shiny accents. I'm going to be using Wink of Stella, a glaze pen by Sakura for like glossy accents, and some Stickles. This one isn't Stickles brand, but it's like the same thing. And this one is Stickles. This one's more of a iridescent glitter. And these are more of like a chunky type of glitter. All right, so using that Sakura clear glaze pen on all the glass type objects, and maybe some to emphasize the shine on like the fish or bubbles. I have another type of glossy accent that dries more raised, but this one goes on flat and just adds kind of a glossy shine. All right, and then adding that Wink of Stella to the eye patch, to her bikini top, and inside the end of her tail. The Stickles type of glitter, I'm just going to add here and there into the tail and part of her bikini top. Alrighty, this page is done. I am so happy with the end results, and even though I had lots of practice beforehand with some of the techniques, it was still a lot of fun being able to play around and get the look just right. Oh, and I did add some more of the Stickles for some of the background bubbles. I felt like it would help show them off a little more, but now maybe it feels more like a disco bar than a tiki bar. Some of my favorite things are how the drinks turned out. They are so colorful, and I really like the way the fish look in them. Also, the wood paneling, I think it looks like real like weathered wood, and I like how you can see the color of them in the light beam. And then I also really like the mermaid's bikini top. It's so pretty how it sparkles, and I love the colors in there too. I hope these videos inspire you to find your own unique inspiration for a coloring page, or maybe taking a closer look at different lighting effects and how you can apply them to your pages. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.